friends, we're on a slightly different schedule this week. It's President's Week. Yesterday was President's Day, and my schedule was a bit upside down. Then we had some technical challenges. Anyway, so here we are talking about telling the truth to yourself about yourself in conjunction with relationships as mirrors. Now, I know, hi Shirley, good to see you. I know from my own experience in my own personal life that my closest, most intimate relationships have taught me a great deal about myself because these people in my life were able to give me feedback, either directly or indirectly, that usually someone who doesn't have that close relationship with any of us can't give us. And what I've learned about the couples that I've worked with over the past 40 years, it's usually that one person in your life that you're most closely, intimately involved with, who sees parts of you that no one else sees and can give you feedback about what else can give, because they see something no one else sees. And I often say, you know, what you see right now, when you're looking at me, although I can see the screen right now, but I can't see what you see. And likewise, you know, if I were sitting having a conversation with you, you can't see what I see. So the relationships we have with the people in our lives, A, who we trust, B, who we feel a close connection with and we can really be ourselves. So we know that when we are being our more authentic selves with that person, we know that whatever feedback we get, we might want to pay attention to that, because usually that person or persons have our back. They don't want to hurt us. They don't want to criticize us, but they may react to us. They may give us feedback that might sound something like, do you realize how self-absorbed you are today? Or do you realize how selfish you're coming across? Or do you ever think about me more than you think about you? In other words, these might be reactions and criticisms or complaints that would only come out in a really close relationship. I'll give you an example. One of my best friends, she's been my friend for 53 years. I can't believe it's been 53 years since we were young opera singers in the city together a long time ago, 53 years ago. And we've maintained our friendship. But about 30 years, maybe less, about 25, 30 years into our relationship, we were having lunch one day. And my life had been very turbulent, as hers had been. We had been up and down the roller coaster of life in many different ways. We're having lunch and chatting away, and she looked at me, she said, you know, Sheila, you know I love you. I said, yes, I know you love me, and I love you too. She says, I'm going to say something I've been wanting to say for a while, and I hope you can really hear me. If our friendship doesn't change, I don't want it. I said, what? What are you talking about? She said, I know you don't realize it, but whenever we get together, and it's been this way for a long time, so I've been thinking about this a long time, I feel like it's all about you, and I might as well just be your therapist sitting here and listening. I don't want to be your therapist. I want us to have reciprocity. I want us to have the two-way street that we used to have when we began our friendship, and it's gotten out of balance. It's not satisfying for me. So if you don't see this or don't want to recognize this, that's okay, that's your right. But I want a two-way street. I want reciprocity in our friendship. It's my friend Ray, and I said, Ray, I love you dearly. I had no idea. She said, you are so self-absorbed. I said, me? She said, yes. We get together, it's all about you. I was shocked because I didn't see myself as being self-absorbed, because I was involved in my life to the extent that I was taking care of everybody else, and I saw myself as being generous and all about other people and giving to everyone else, and I didn't see myself as as self-absorbed. But this was my friend for decades who said, Sheila, you have become, for me, in our friendship, very self-absorbed, and it's no fun for me to be in a relationship where I feel like we get together and it's all about you. I thanked her. And I thank her every time we're together. And I'm thinking about, that was about 25 years ago. So when I'm planning a day to go into New York City to see my friend Ray, I remind myself to make it a two-way street. I remind myself that my friend Ray loves me and cares about me, and she wants to know that I love her and care about her too. So I'm not going to allow myself to inadvertently become self-absorbed, to let it be all about me. So I become more present to myself. That was feedback. That wasn't criticism. She wasn't trying to hurt me in any way, but she needed to speak her truth about herself, and she needed to tell me what she saw, and she needed to be real with herself and real with me. So in this part of our exploration into the IntoMeSee program, this is about how we can use our relationships in our lives as mirrors, and to be willing to receive that feedback, to receive that information that the other person gives us, to enhance ourselves, to stay more on top of things, to be more in balance, to be clear about who we are in ourselves and who we are in our relationship. And I will say that that has been a major gift of my friendship with my dear friend, one of my dearest friends, for over half a century. Now, my husband, who was my husband for 32 years, was the love of my life. It didn't mean that there weren't times I wanted to scream or run or pack my bags, because during our marriage, there were times that I was this far away from walking away because I was upset about something or I didn't know how to handle something. I didn't, but I was close. And there were times that my husband, who was Mr. Clean, everything was in order, he was older and wiser than I, he'd often come into where I was working in our study. During several years of our marriage, we shared a space where he had one part of the space for his study and I had the other space. It was very large. And he'd walk in and he'd look around and he'd say, I see you've been really busy. Would you like some help kind of cleaning up some of your stacks? And this goes to the point where I am the queen of clutter. And I had allowed my work stacks to just kind of overtake my space to the point where it's kind of hard to walk around and to navigate or to find more horizontal space to put things. And we'd laugh. And I'd say, you know what? I didn't even notice. And he said, if you need some help, I'll help you. Sometimes I would accept it. But the biggest help was for him to give me feedback about what he saw that I didn't see. So sometimes the people who are closest to us, the people we live with, the people who claim to love us and we love them, they often give us feedback about who we're being and how we're behaving and how it is for them as well, right? I've been working with a couple for several years who are in the midst of separating. And early on in their relationship, I made some observations and attempted to help them to navigate their differences. And very often couples can do that. Just like, you know, my husband was Mr. Clean and I'm the queen of clutter. And we found a way to navigate that so that he could live with me and I could live with him without our wanting to strangle each other. Now, in this particular case with this couple, the woman is turning 65 and her partner is 70. And he has recently retired and so has she. She had a plan to do something else, to expand her career. So she retired from doing one thing. She's kind of like me. She retired from doing one kind of work and she decided to get training and do another kind of work. So I retired from being a cantor and now I'm busy being a relationship coach. Having apparently no relationship to each other except they actually do. But the point is, I can't imagine ever retiring, so I kind of reinvented myself. So that's what this woman has done. Let's call her Bonnie, okay? And we'll call the guy Ted. Bonnie and Ted, right? That's not their real name. And Ted retired a couple of years ago because it was made an offer he couldn't refuse, a kind of a buyout kind of thing, but he hadn't really planned for retirement. And he was one of these people who worked very hard and had a long commute, and that was his life for over 45 years. So Ted hadn't planned ahead for what to do with the time and the space and energy and everything that we all have once we retire. And I had urged him to begin thinking about that, and then the retirement was kind of at the last minute kind of thing. Anyway, long story short, we all go through our different stages and challenges in life, but he had more time on his hands than he knew what to do with, and she was busy. She's also very sociable. He kind of likes to stay at home. And so she began to expand in one direction and he began to contract in another. And it created tensions in their life. So he would say things like, you know, I would like to stay home and enjoy being home with you, my love. And she said, but I need to get out and do things, and I'm taking some classes and I've got some trainings and I'm doing some teaching and all of this. Anyway, long story short, he began to experience that he wasn't very important to her anymore. And she began to experience that he was crimping her style. And this began to create a lot of tension, a lot of cross currents with resentment and things like that. So he sees her as selfish, and she sees him as constraining or as demanding. And so they each give each other feedback, but it feels like criticism. So, you know, there are various ways of handling differences. Sometimes the differences become so big that we need to acknowledge that you've just gone in different directions, which is part of what is happening with Ted and Bonnie right now. So the truth-telling aspect of this part of the process for you with seeing your relationships as mirrors is to ask yourself the question, what feedback am I receiving from my most important relationships? Whether it's my significant other, whether it's my best friend, whether it's my son or my daughter or my grandchildren or my coworkers, and be willing to listen. Be willing to have a sense of humor about yourself. Be willing to accept the great possibility that your partner or your friend or your family member has your best interests at heart or is giving you feedback that you owe to yourself to listen to if you want to have a relationship with this person, and they're telling you their truth, like my friend Ray. So just wondering, hi Beth, good to see you. Just wondering how that is for you. For you to really look at the kinds of exchanges, the kinds of conversations that you might have been having lately with somebody in your life who's really important to you. But things are maybe in disarray. Maybe you've got some tensions building up. Maybe you've got some conflicts, and maybe you've had some words with each other. It's not easy to stay present to yourself in a relationship, because very often in our relationships we're focused on what we need from them, and if we're not getting it, then we may be reacting. And for you to be willing to be honest with yourself, to be truthful to yourself about what you're feeling and how you're reacting. Let me give you a recent example. I've had, a lot of you who know me know that I've had a sweet paramour, a lover in my life for the past 13 years. And it's not a boyfriend. It's not my significant other. It's someone that I attracted to my life after my husband passed. And I wanted to have romance in some ways. I wanted to have sensuality. I wanted to have pleasure with someone that I adored, but not someone that I lived with. I knew myself well enough to know that at that time in my life, I just wanted kind of to play, to have a pleasure partner, if you will, a playmate, someone with whom I had a really good rapport and really sweet connection, but it was not the kind of thing where I was married or in a committed relationship. And over the years, there have been times, and we had an agreement from the beginning. And I said to him, if you ever don't want to see me, and we've even made plans to see each other, please don't come see me. I only want to see you when you really want to see me. And we had that agreement. And there were times when we had a whole weekend when we could have spent time with each other, and I didn't hear from him. And I was really pissed off. And I'd later hear from him. He said, I'm sorry, babe, I wasn't in the mood. I was in the middle of a project. I really didn't want to see you then. I said, okay, well, thank you for honoring our agreement. It hurt, but okay. Recently, I had taken a break from seeing him for a while, and recently I had the feeling that somehow I just didn't want to see him. So I declared another break. Now the break could be a week, it could be a month, it could be 3 months. And it's not that we're breaking up. I've had a relationship with this guy for 13 years. So I've learned that it's not that I'm breaking up. I'm not angry. It's not that kind of thing. But I let him know that I just needed a break. And he said, okay. Now the truth is, it really bothered me that he didn't fight back, that he didn't say, but I want to see you, because I want him to want to see me. So now I'm feeling some anger. I'm feeling some sadness. I'm feeling some rejection. I'm feeling some disappointment. Because the fact is, I do adore this person and I want to be wanted. I think we all want to be wanted. And that's the truth. So I don't know what to do, because I now am being truthful to myself about myself. I want him to want to see me, and I want him to be the one to let me know that he wants to see me. But I'm the one who declared the break. I'm the one who said, maybe we just take a break and maybe we reconnect in the spring. Well, it's not spring yet. So I could contact him and say, I want to see you when you want to see me. Now I'm opening myself up to being vulnerable, and he may not want to see me, and I have to accept that. It's not easy. But you see, when we have these kinds of relationships, we have to be willing to look at ourselves and be honest with ourselves about what we're feeling and what our agenda is and what the hidden message might be and what kinds of games we might be playing with either ourselves or someone else. So my question to you is right now, how are you willing to receive feedback from the most important people in your life? Every now and then, I do ask the more central people in my life, I ask them for feedback. I ask them, how are we doing? How do you see me? What do you see? And I invite it. Let me know how things are. Because the fact of the matter is, in our most important long-term relationships, the danger of any of these relationships is to go on autopilot. You don't want to be just clopping along on autopilot, not present, kind of brain dead. I don't think you want that. So the joy of close relationships is the give and the take, is the flexibility, is the ability to receive the feedback from others. Now, what if someone gives us feedback that really hurts? Like, I don't know, you seem like you're always whining, or you see yourself as a victim, and why don't you just just put your big girl panties on or something like that. That could hurt, but it could be useful feedback. And you could ask yourself the question, is there some truth in that? Maybe there is and maybe there isn't. Maybe sometimes other people see something in us and they judge it and then they throw it back at us. And maybe it has something to do with something they can't handle. So that's important to take into account when you're getting that feedback. But for instance, with my girlfriend who saw me as self-absorbed, it doesn't mean I was always self-absorbed, but with her, her experience was when we got together for lunch, it was all about me. I was taking up the oxygen in the conversation. I had to be willing to listen to what she said. Gosh, maybe that is true in this relationship with my friend, because she was actually one of the few people I could actually talk to who was interested in what I was going through at the time. And it was helpful for me to be willing to hear that feedback as much as it hurt. So I will be posting and uploading a worksheet for this conversation later today, because my days have been a little upside down. And I will confess, I needed to play. I needed to be able to sleep late and to go to the movies and go to dinner with friends and spend time with my family and just not have to do anything at all. And that's the fact, which is why I changed everything this week. So, mea culpa, I hope you forgive me, and I hope you're enjoying this semi-hemi-demi holiday week in whatever way it is for you, and that you really allow yourself to appreciate the feedback that you get from the relationships in your life that matter the most, so that you see they are mirrors, and there's a blessing, there's a gift. Bye for now, with love.